to go? Awesome. So if we'll join me for the pledge, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. McHugh,
Yes.
Ms. Boubier,
Here.
Ms. Messier,
Here.
Ms. Quinn,
Here.
Mr. Cresswell,
Here.
Mr. Rhodes,
Present.
Ms. Marchioni. She's not with us yet, or not yet. Mr. Dillon will not be with us and requested an excused absence. He's having trouble, I guess. Ms. Cohen,
Here.
Mr. Eubner,
Here.
and Mr. Verbo is myself, and I am here. Public comments, I don't see any members of the public, so I think we can dispense with that for now, unless you want to. Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Night is young.
So I have to confess, this summer has rolled over me like a tidal wave.
Not like a tsunami?
Like a green wave, like a Tulane. I went to Tulane too, but I digress. I believe I sent the minutes out from 22 July 2025.
I didn't get them.
Did not get, okay, that's my delinquency, so I will make sure those get circulated. So as far as I know, all the other minutes have been approved, right? We're up to date on some minutes.
We should be.
And so our next order of business is an update on the school district.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Chairman, as far as approving the minutes of the last meeting, Ms. Bobian and I were not here, but we both asked to be excused, and it says not present. Could we have that changed to excused, please?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Let me, just give me 1 second to make a note so it gets done.
We received draft minutes.
Oh, we
But that was
did?
from the town, yeah. It came over automatically, so we do have the 722 minutes.
Oh, okay,
They're
so.
very lengthy.
Okay, so then I guess the motion I would look for is to approve the minutes as written with the change that Ms. Messier, Ms. Boubier had excused absences that evening. Is there somebody?
So moved.
Thank you. Moved and so I know the tape recorder likes, I never started the damn thing.
Uh-oh.
And we're
Oh,
recording.
perfect. So we'll just go with that. So
And you're also being
Cohen.
recorded here, aren't you?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen made the motion and Ms. Quinn seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, I have to abstain because I wasn't there.
Don't have to
I don't
abstain,
have to?
but it is, it is
It's kind of
common
clean, it makes
practice.
it clean, yeah.
common
So I abstain, sorry.
So that would be 802. 8 in favor, none opposed, 2 abstain.
7.
7-2,
There's 10 of us.
There are none.
because Stacy's not here.
I'm sorry, I miscounted. And actually, I should also abstain. So that would be a 603, and the motion still carries. Math is hard.
We're still in our summer brains here.
1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions?
No, the.
3
two-
abstentions.
Three
two
abstentions.
I thought
ladies
you
and
said you were
myself.
abstaining also.
Oh, no.
She made the motion.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
she's on top of it.
Oh.
I stand corrected.
So there is a vicious rumor that there may be another meeting in this room at 7, and if there is,
I don't believe it's been minuted.
I was gonna say, I
believe
don't
so
see an
either.
agenda posted.
well, if they show up, we will, without objection, we'll just adjourn at that point and pick up at a later date. We won't delay them, right? So next order of business is the school budget update and discussion. I guess the way I worded it confused some people. We're not receiving town or school budgets for the coming budget year. It's just receiving the updates on the revenue and expenditures. So the school update was emailed earlier today.
And I printed.
And yeah, and there are hard,
This
everyone
time.
should have a hard copy in front of you. Ms. Cohen, if you'd like to take us through the highs
Sure.
and the lows first?
Yes, so I will say there's not that much in this report because it is only for the month of July. So it's the first month of the operating budget for this budget year. So this is the budget, and we're now working off the budget that we created last year. But it's the first month, so, and school's not in session yet until tomorrow. So there have not been a particularly large amount of expenditures.
Excuse me 1 second. I just want the record to show Ms. Marchioni has arrived. Good evening. No need to apologize. So we are reviewing the Deerfield School District revenue and budgets. I'm sorry, Ms. Cohen, if you'd like to continue.
Yeah, so there's not that much, there's a lot encumbered, so you'll see that the salaries are encumbered. We anticipate that we will spend that amount over the year based on current staffing levels. Otherwise, there's honestly not that much going on in here, but obviously if anyone has questions, I'm happy to discuss them. We did close the books on the last year, and it has been largely reconciled. There are a few missing revenue pieces that aren't in there currently, so the report is not quite finalized. So we're anticipating a finalized report for the next school board meeting, so then I'll bring it to the next MBC meeting as well.
And your next school board meeting is?
September 3rd.
Right on. I'm sorry, Ms. Quinn, go ahead.
Okay, I just had a
was
quick
looking
question. So I understand the encumbrance piece, but I'm just curious, how come the para's salaries aren't encumbered?
Couldn't tell you. We do have paras. I don't know. I don't know why they would choose to encumber some and not others, to be honest.
Ms. Cohen? Is it, so the teachers are contractual employees, you've started the school year, so it's difficult to reduce staff once you're in a school year typically. The paras, I don't think, operate under the same type of contract that a teacher signs.
Well, we do have the para contract,
For salary rate.
right.
But a teacher contract
I don't-
specifies
yeah.
hours, length of day, number of days.
Yeah, they're all
et cetera.
different. And this report was run for our school board meeting in early August. So if they have started working since then and have encumbered it since then,
Okay,
possible.
okay,
But I don't know.
thank you.
Anyone else, anything else?
Go ahead. No, I was just noticing, I just do know that we've already paid out, was it $1,600,000 from the town to the school this year so far? So, and so, does that go to meet some of these encumbrances, or because it's certainly not sufficient based on that, so, or is it just pro rata?
I imagine it's just pro rata, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, the accounting would be interesting to know why you got, yeah.
That is much above my pay grade of the actual.
Because we don't have
accounting.
SAU personnel here to
Correct.
explain that,
Correct.
anticipating other commentary later next week.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do not know how the accounting works in terms of cash flow and how they budget things when we get money from the town, who is paid when. I mean, I know when teachers are paid, but that's about it.
And you haven't had a chance to ask these questions of the SAU, which you normally would do, had you had the questions in advance.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, as you know, we will have SAU employees here during budget season. So if there's a burning need to know it now, we can certainly get the answer. Otherwise, you're obviously welcome to ask when we have our full slate of people here.
When does budget season officially start? What do you consider that?
Well, for the school side or the MBC side?
Well, when you say that when budget season starts, you'll have people from the superintendent's office here, what does that mean?
So if you look at the MBC schedule, it shows when you'll receive the school budget. And then when all of the meetings that we're specifically talking about the school board, that's typically after Thanksgiving. It's usually the first or second week of December, off the top of my head.
Okay, so no one from the SAU will be coming to a meeting or answering questions until December?
So historically, SAU and administrative staff join us once we receive the school board budget. So the process is that the administration crafts a proposed budget that then gets delivered to the school board. You could look at it as the school board requests a budget from the administrative staff, however you want to look at it. Anyway, typically the first bite of the apple comes from the administration. That goes to the school board. The school board then begins their review on that budget. At that point, that budget is the possession of the school board. Once the school board finalizes and approves a budget, then it is sent over here to the budget committee. Once it comes over here, it is quote unquote in the possession of the budget committee to begin our work. The school board has SAU and other administrative staff at their meetings to walk them through the proposals that they have in front of them and to answer any questions.
And for the past 2 years, we've invited MBC members at the school board meeting to comment, ask questions during budget discussions in advance of it coming to the MBC.
So I'm sorry, because I'm new at this, so forgive my
No
ignorance.
problem.
What about reconciling the 24-25 budget? So we had questions about that.
Yes.
So it happens that you were not in a deficit for last year.
No.
You had an overage. So when do we get those questions answered to the extent that we have them?
So that final report's going to be reviewed at our next school board meeting. So if you have questions in advance of that, we can certainly address them at the school board meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I don't think Ms. Marcioni had the benefit of your earlier comments about revenues and reconciliations.
Yes,
So-
so, yeah, there are a few more revenue pieces that need to be updated in the report before we can finalize the 24-25 school year complete report. But it should be done for our next school board meeting, which is on the 3rd, and it is an agenda item.
So then if we have questions at that point, we would just ask you to go through to SAU or ask
well,
the
so-
person and-
So the order of operations, as I understand it, is they're going to close it a week from tomorrow at their meeting, and then they'll bring that to the MBC for our next meeting. They have to close it and approve it before they can really deliver it, right? So they're going to do that at their next meeting. They'll deliver that for us, either at the meeting or sometime prior via email. And so that would be a topic for our next meeting.
So I do have a couple of questions on the 24-25 budget. Do you want that are,
School budget?
yes.
Now's the time.
Okay. So I just wanted, at our last meeting, there were two topics that we talked about for the school budget. And I know you've addressed these at the school board meeting, but just to close the loop on it at the MBC. One was teachers getting a stipend for not taking the health insurance policy.
Any
through
staff,
school, so
yeah.
Yeah, so they actually do get a stipend.
Yes.
Right, okay, of $2,500 per year. And then on the teachers' course reimbursement, the professional development line.
Yep.
We just got numbers from Jess Bickford today on that, and I had asked her, and so I'm just given you're here, wanted to touch base with you on that. Could you just look at whether that meets the kind of the meaning in the letter of the teacher's contract in terms of tuition reimbursement? Because there are some limits for tuition
Well,
reimbursement in the contract.
There are not limits, there are that the board doesn't have to go over it, but they could if they so choose. But it is $31,000 per year for coursework and $19,000 for workshops.
And I think that it said,
Can I interrupt quickly?
sure,
So that's a total nut for the entire staff, not per,
Correct. For the entire staff.
Thank you.
Everyone can get a college degree every year.
So that will not buy a college degree.
Oh, he did 20 years ago.
It's not even close for one.
Won't even get you a year.
No, it will not. Right, yes. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're
Ms.
fine.
Marchion.
So there is a limit. An employee will be reimbursed for up to 6 credits in each of these defined periods, which are defined here, but for no more than 9 in any given year.
Okay,
So there are limits and there are some.
for a number of credits.
Going over, right, 9
Right.
credits for a couple of different teachers in a given year.
Okay.
Can I,
So first I wanted to address that there are limits, because you had indicated that there weren't any limits, they can take whatever they want. That's not actually true. So it is limited for a maximum dollar amount per year, and it is limited in the number of credits, and obviously that just applies to course work, not workshops and things that don't have credits associated with it. And that's in section 15, fringe benefits.
Yeah, I am looking at, I assume this is the same, we got this at the school board meeting. And I don't see anyone over 9 credits, but perhaps I'm,
Corson was,
Corwin.
or win.
Corwin, sorry, 11.
Is it possible that the school board can
There are the,
override that? If, for example, there are not people taking coursework, some are taking more than others in any given year, and if the amount of money has not been spent, would it be possible for someone to get paid for more than 9?
It doesn't say that in the contract. It says an employee will be reimbursed for up to 6 credits in each of these defined periods, but for no more than 9 in a given year.
One's up
So
to
it doesn't say, but if one teacher doesn't take any, you can pay another.
Yeah, that sounds right per person.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I just
I'm not, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. If we could maybe just look at that, that's all.
sure.
Understanding that there are limits to that dollar value, and so it shouldn't just be they can take whatever they want and we'll just pay for it. And then I don't see any, Corson still a teacher?
Corwin.
Corwin.
I'm so sorry.
She's a math specialist.
Still, I
Um,
wasn't sure. I know a few people.
I
have
don't
left.
think so. She
Yeah,
may have left.
We don't have an updated roster, that was the only thing, but we'll get that obviously from the
Yeah.
SAU, so we'll know. But one of them was up to like 15 credits, more than that.
So we just spent, I think, sorry, I'm a little discombobulated here today. I think we just spent like $8,000 on her schooling, and she left. So what, I guess what that says to me is, ooh, I'm looking in the contract for the clause that says, if we're going to reimburse you for tuition for you to go take college courses, you're going to stay for a period of a year, 2 years. There are a lot of those. That's a very standard clause in a contract, that if we're paying for your education, you're going to give us the next 3, 4, 5 years working for us. And there's nothing like that. And now we've just shelled out a bunch of money for coursework, and that teacher is gone. And that's just one example.
Yeah, I mean, we can't edit the CBA at this point.
I understand
for
that, but
next
certainly,
year.
right, you have it coming up, and let's, I would say, let's look at that, because that hurts when you pay out that kind of money and then they,
So if,
So that
Leave.
language isn't in the contract at the
it
present
is
time?
not.
Okay.
No, there's nothing to be done about
so
it.
if I may, it's been my experience that school districts are reluctant to use that type of language. And the reason is you really don't want a classroom teacher that does not want to be in the building being forced to be in the building. And so I think the common view of it is you're better off letting them fly the coop than to have somebody forced to be in the building that doesn't want to be there.
That is true, but you could have a clawback clause.
Yeah,
So if
that
you
you
leave
could.
within 1 year, you're paying us back 90%. If you leave within 2 years, you're paying us back 50%. So you could do it that way and let them go.
That's typically how it's done in business.
Yes.
Oh,
There's a period of time that you have to stay, or you have to repay the.
I fully understand that. I'm not arguing for or against, I'm just telling you my past experience. I used to be a public school teacher, so that was the.
So you're biased.
I am, quite. The other thing I'll say is it's one thing to win a settlement in court. It is yet quite another to actually collect any cash based on such a settlement. So you have to be a little careful about, what it's going to cost you to try to collect sometimes. Mr. Rhodes?
Chairman, thank you. Yeah, and I would caution against viewing municipal enterprises as a business, just generally speaking, because we're not in it for profit. That's sort of antithetical to the concept. But my real question was, is it in the gift of the school to reallocate, as Ms. Bobian was suggesting? I'd be curious to know that as well. If you have unspent funds in that account, somebody's at 9 and wants to take more courses, whether or not they're planning to leave, right? Is it within the gift of the school to do that under the terms of the contract?
It's a good question.
That's,
So I do see what you're saying about the 11 credits, and we're in 2023. So if she left in 2025, I don't know that there's much that we could have done about that, but
Nothing, yeah, well, right. I mean, it's passed, it's paid.
yeah, she submitted them in September of 2023, November, et cetera, so.
So not to be argumentative, but I'll disagree with the sentiment that one cannot view the workings of government as a business because it's not for profit. Not-for-profit businesses exist. Technically, government is supposed to be a not-for-profit business. The question is, what is the product and what is the profit? And I would contend that in a school district, the product is well-educated students, and the profit is that you end up with community members, citizens that contribute to the greater society. So there is a profit and loss, not in the most traditional sense, but certainly there is a series of goods and services that are expected to pay benefit back to the community that paid the tax.
I would take issue.
As a municipal employee, my contract does have that clause that if you take a specific class that is expensive, we send people to the paramedic programs to better their education, which benefits the town. The town will pay for it with the understanding that the employee will stay for a certain period of time afterward, or will reimburse the town for that expense. So that is something that is in a municipal contract.
But not necessarily in a teaching contract. That might, I don't know what the standards
Municipal
are.
contract.
I mean, when the time is to renegotiate,
Yeah.
we can certainly task the negotiators with looking at other towns, looking at around us. All the CBAs are available on the DOE website, so it's not a bad suggestion.
Yeah.
There's just not much we can do about it right at this second.
I would also just challenge the chairman that he wasn't being argumentative. I think he was being philosophical.
And I would just say that there's a
Distinction without a
difference in
difference.
the interaction between a fire, like emergency response personnel and their job and teachers interacting with students and other
Absolutely. But
members of the
just as a
community.
clause
I
of
think it's,
a municipal contract versus another municipal they're both municipal contracts. But the clauses are the same.
Right, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to see if those limits, but I'd also like to see if the funds are still there, that it can be paid out to someone taking more than the credits that are allowed per teacher. Because the best thing is a well-educated workforce. And the more education, the better the teaching.
So I don't disagree at all. I would recommend to committee members to express that to the school board. At the end of the day, the school board is half of the negotiation with the teachers union. Obviously, the teachers union's the other half, and it's fully in the purview of the school board to negotiate that contract. We do get the luxury of making recommendations to the voters for passage or not, but for stuff like that, it's really the purview of the school board.
Yeah, I would send an email, truthfully, to the negotiation group so that they have the suggestions in writing. I'm not on the negotiation committee, so, and I don't know who is. And it could change. I mean, so we're not gonna be negotiating with the teachers until next summer, maybe. So those board assignments are probably gonna change as of March. So I don't know, but you could send it to, the superintendent, or I'm happy to forward it along to the board, because I'm sure someone on the board will be on the negotiation committee.
So I would strongly recommend that those communications go to school board members and school board members only, as it's a negotiation, and
Yeah,
really,
true,
that's the
true.
most appropriate body, not the administrative staff. All right, anything else on school budget? All right, seeing nothing, that would move us on to the town budget. We have hard copies from the town as well on both revenues and expenditures. Mr. Huber, if you want to bring us through the highs, the lows, and the indifferences, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, sir. So you have two documents. One is the revenue report, which is a year-to-date and a month-to-date assessment of the revenues collected. And there's several categories. The first one is the general fund, the first 2 pages, and then you see, the first 3 pages. And then you see at the bottom of the 4th page, the grant funds, and then you see the special detail revolving fund, and then you see Parks and Rec. And that's kind of the categories that you're looking at in this report. And if you scan down through the month-to-date or year-to-date, and we look at some of the bigger numbers, you can see the penalties and interest. Do you have a copy of this?
I don't.
Okay, are you looking on one?
No, that's fine. There might be someone, right?
Okay.
Which one do you need?
Revenues.
The town report?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So you got the penalties and interest about halfway down page 1. You have motor vehicle permits, which is always a large category, and one of our, very biggest categories, the biggest, I believe. Other licenses, permits, and fees, about 1,000 this month. And then highway block grant is in there at 48,000, which is a big piece. And then police outside details get accumulated month by month. And the grand total, if you look at the general fund, I think it's on page 4. You see the grand total at the bottom of $108,575 on a year-to-date revenue of $1,279,346, if my eyesight is good. And any questions about the general fund revenues as you go, anything stand out or any questions about it, collected revenues?
Yes, so I noticed that the estimated revenues are all listed at 0, but the town does have an estimated revenue document that goes to the state, to Department of Revenue Administration. And so it's hard to compare what our estimates versus where we are.
And that's why we don't have a collected percentage either.
So is it possible to get this populated with those values so we can see how we're tracking? Because that's one of the reason I asked the question is because one of the perennial questions and complaints, depending on what time of year you're in, is that the MBC signs off on revenue projections that we really have no input to, and then we don't see how they track. All we see is a final number. And I think one of the purposes for having these summer meetings was to sort of see how these things track against projection. Would it be possible to get that populated?
Yeah, I think so. I don't see why not, right? This would be Pete, I guess, would have to do that, or?
Could you do me one favor? Could you sit at the microphone? People have complained that they can't hear you when you're speaking when you're in Receipts, thank you.
I would just have to create a revenue budget in MuniSmart, and then we could populate that and you'd be able to compare them.
That would be excellent. The other thing, if you want to come sit over here with a live mic during meetings, you are more than welcome to join us if that's easier, more convenient for you. If you're happy there, that's fine too. But I
Okay.
just want to let you know, historically, the town administrator has always sort of sat up here with an active mic. It's up to you how you want to do that.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. Anything else on the revenue side? Might as well take it piecemeal. Nothing, so then why don't we look at the appropriation report?
So the only thing, I haven't calculated how far through the year we are, in terms of number of days of the year remaining versus spent. Does anybody know that number? Do we know that, Karen? We calculated it in the past.
I would say you're approximately 7/12 of the year through, since the run date on this was the 7th of August. So,
Yeah, 7/12, so somebody has a calculator. What's 7/12?
15%.
58.3.
So if you turn all the way to the final page, you see the total roll-up of the expenditures, and it is currently at 59.621.
I'm going to say you sandbagged us on that. What's 7 divided by 12? Can I?
58.333.
No, you need sandbag. So you're over budget.
We're over budget by 1%. So that's kind of the bottom line. And now if you look down through all the categories, of course, this is our standard budget format with all of the departments, you listed here. The blood-sucking executive is the Board of Selectmen right there at the top. The TA, the town clerk. And you can see all the percentages used calculated at the side, and you should take note, of course, of anything that's over 100, but remembering that this is on default budget. We are plagued with many categories that are not adequately funded in the default numbers, and so we do exceed many of the categories and under on other categories in the bottom line budget.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I've noticed that the transfer station hours have changed and the library hours have changed. Is that a result of the budget?
Well, yes. Some of the justification that has been given by both the town clerk and by the transfer station board of selectmen is because of trying to save some money on the budget.
In the library?
Yeah, same thing. But they also are dealing with the personnel that they can get. And sometimes they have to rearrange the schedule because they just don't have somebody to cover. And there has been quite a bit of feedback from the public about the changing hours at those facilities, and, rightly so, and we're trying to balance our budget constraints with what we can do.
You good? Mr. Rhodes?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would say that the proper calculus would be 7.25 into 12. And if you do that, since it's a week into August, and if you do that, the resulting number is 60.4%, which means that you are slightly under budget. I'm just saying.
That
Thanks
was
for that
very,
help.
that was very enlightening.
Fun.
That was very enlightening, Mr. Rhodes, very enlightening.
We're essentially tracking along and hoping not to run out of money by the end of the year.
With 2 kids in college, I know the feeling.
So as I said, if you track down, you're going to see some big numbers, that are over, and some of them are like 1,500% and things like that. Some numbers that are just because there's a very small amount in there when we spent, more than that. So it calculates out to a very large percentage.
So my gut tells me this is, I'm sorry, is there anybody else I should have looked up first? No?
I have a couple questions, but.
Please, go ahead. No, I'll yield, please.
Okay. So when I was looking at the beginning of the year payroll manifest versus the payroll manifest of late, I think right now we're about 15, 20, so $20,000 to $25,000 more per week, per biweekly period than we were in the beginning of the year. Are we at currently what you expect the biweekly payroll to be for the remainder of the year?
No, the summer payroll is much higher because you have Parks and Rec, all of the seasonal staff, and all of the
Okay.
VZ Park seasonal staff.
Okay, so you will expect that it would go down to something closer to the beginning of the year?
It would still be higher than the beginning of the year because COLAs were adjusted after town meeting.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be as high as it is now.
Okay. Do you have a projection for the salaries for the remainder of the year?
I can grab that for you.
That would be great. Are there any places where you think what concerns you about the budget and the rest of the year, if anything?
Can I interrupt just before you ask that? That's a great question. I'm just curious about something for the town administrator or Mr. Hubner. So in March, a COLA was approved for town employees, correct?
Yes.
And the budget that we voted in March started 3 months before in January. So are the COLAs retroactive to Jan 1, or do they only kick in after the March meeting?
They kick in after the March meeting.
They do, okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry, Ms. Marshall, you want to continue?
I'd just like to know what concerns, if anything, you may have about the remainder of the budget year. I watched the meetings. I know, you have some big expenditures coming up there. I'd like to know at this point, at the last meeting, you mentioned certain line items in the budget that you will not be spending. Have you expanded that at all at this point? Or I just kind of like your overview on where we're at, what you're planning on eliminating and not doing to get through the rest of the year.
Well, we essentially are in a crisis mode, as I've said in the Board of Selectmen meetings. So we are without enough funding. We are definitely on an austerity program where we're asking every line item to, not be spent as possible and to try to fund the things that have to be spent. And we are managing our way through this crisis. We are hopeful that we can, through the next efforts, as you recall, last year we put together line items on budget lines that we felt were more appropriate in each of the lines. We tried to really hard at the effort of many of you that are in this room. And we went through it line by line, and we looked at where the shortfalls were on the traditional or historical spending for the last couple of years and compared that to what we thought we would have to spend this year for the same thing, fuel oil and diesel and all of those categories, as you know. And that was rejected by the voters, of course, as you also recall. So we are back on these old numbers that are not appropriate, and that's why the budget is so badly line item followed. And we have significant expenses that have come up this year that were unexpected, that were not budgeted for, things like the septic system here at the George B. White, the waters, all of the copper piping is being replaced with PEX piping because the copper concentration in the water doesn't meet the standards for the state to be leasing the building or having public services in public building. There are issues with our plow truck. We have a 6-wheel plow truck that we depend on. It's 31 years old. It's in its 31st year. It's been a great truck for 31 years, but it now is in the shop, and the frame is needing some significant repair before it can be passing its inspection to be on the road. And so we are now facing, a crisis within a crisis where we have to come up with a truck. You recall that in the Warren article of last year, we asked about buying a new truck for the highway department, and that was also defeated by the voters. So they don't want to be buying a new truck, so that no means no. So we can't buy a new truck, nor do we have really the funds to buy a new truck. But we are looking to replace this 31-year-old truck this season with probably a used truck, and that's a very difficult thing for the public to hear about because we had a kind of a debacle, if you will, of a truck purchase that we made recently. Where procedures weren't followed and quote emergency things were done, and it was not a good scene. Now for us to have to replace our plow truck for the town and ask to buy a used truck is something that the Board of Selectmen have to have because we obviously have to plow the roads as a priority. I'm sure the voters would, I feel sure that the voters would want us to do that. And so that's another example of extra expenses that have been coming up in the town. There are a lot of initiatives that are being suggested by different committees and citizens, town hall and the transfer station. There's lots of things that need to be done in the infrastructure of the town. And these items are very noble and good items, but there's really very little funding for it. So while we listen kind of patiently and with sympathy toward the people that are having the enthusiasm and drive to drive these programs, we simply don't have the tax funds to do that, in our town budget situation. So I don't know if I'm answering your question well enough, but we are concerned that we could run out of money. We don't know when the winter snows will come and how much sand and salt we're going to need, how much plowing costs we'll have. But we are trying to manage our way to the point where we get to December 31st with a penny left in the bank.
Right. So at the last meeting for the water repairs, the water system, it was going to cost about 51,000. You had 28,000 in capital reserve, and you needed to find 23,000. Where'd you
Yeah.
find it?
Karen can, I think, address this. Recall that we went into a program of asking our department heads about where they could save some money and not spend something that maybe they had planned to spend as a way of trying to cobble together some money.
Yeah.
But I believe we've funded it in other ways from other lines.
So that's kind of my question. I'm just curious where you're pulling money from to meet your expenditures through the rest of the year.
We recently received a payment, I would say, some might say a grant, I'm not sure how that should be said, but we received $143,000 from the state, which is the gasoline tax and tolls that are collected and distributed to the communities from that fund. And that's money that I don't think we anticipated. I'm not sure if we anticipated that in our revenue report, but we have gotten that, and that that can be spent on basically anything. It's a general fund that we can spend it on. It doesn't have to be spent on highways or roads. There is a piece of that has to be spent on highways and roads. I believe it's around 19,000, if I remember right.
Is that in this revenue report, Will?
I don't know, so there is a line in the revenue report that's
Yeah.
called,
A portion of it is, but not all of it, because the
Block
funds
grant.
come in quarterly.
So one at a time. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sorry. A portion of the highway block grant is in the revenue report, but not all of it, because it comes in quarterly installments.
Question on that. So the announcement was made that was it 100, just 111,000, or was it 140?
I thought it was 143.
140 something. It was, so is that a quarterly number or is that an annual number?
That's an annual number.
That's
Okay,
a
that's what I
total.
thought. So they only pay out quarterly is what you're saying.
Correct.
So this
So you get
48,000.
35 grand or something,
Yes.
something like that. Okay.
There should be the quarter of the 143 and the 19, I believe. He had them together and then took a quarter.
So
It's like it's a little high to me, but.
So, Mr. Hubner, I'm looking at page 14, about two-thirds of the way down, and I get to hot top and grinding, and I see a budgeted amount of $257,000, and I see nothing spent, and I'm curious as to what the plan for that money is.
So that's the bulk of the money that we will redistribute to other portions of the budget that we're having shortfalls on. So we will be spending the 500,000, I think you recall from the budget warrant articles that we have 500,000 to spend on roads and road maintenance and reconstruction. And so the 250,000 that's in the budget will be reallocated to make the budget work and make it to the end of the year. So the taxpayers should know that we are not going to be able to pave as much roads as they probably intended us to pave, because we simply don't have the money in the budget to do that, and we have to reallocate some of this money for that.
Okay, so with that being said, I like to be transparent. I like to be as forward as I possibly can. It's probably going to be my intention, after we receive the town budget, to reduce hot top and grinding to $1, and to encourage the select board to add $257,000 to the current $500,000 warrant article, because I believe that people want the roads taken care of, and I don't think we should be showing $250,000 that we have essentially no intention of spending on that line item. So I don't know if I'll have the support of the committee or not, but I don't want it to pop up as a surprise when we get into town budgeting. But it will be my intention not to zero it, but to bring it to $1, move that money into a dedicated fund. That will serve a couple of purposes. The first purpose is that we'll guarantee that the money that the people are voting for highways is going to be used on highways, used on roads. The second thing that will do is it will reduce the bottom line of the budget, which should alleviate certain pressures of percentile increases. So it's a bit of a bait and switch, because you're going to pull out $250,000 here, but you're going to put it over here. But I believe that it'll get strong support if it's over here, because they'll know it gets spent, whereas here it's not getting spent. There has to be some amount of people that are voting against these budgets because that money's not getting spent, because they want that money spent. So we've been doing a lot of things the same way for a long, long time, and we keep getting the same result, which it appears that nobody is happy with, right? I don't see anybody around the table that's like, damn, we're knocking it down on the town budget, right? And so we have to start thinking about other ways to approach this. I've been mentioning it without being specific for many years to the select board, that maybe we should allow the voters a more à la carte approach. And we can decide, how we want to do that. Is it one warrant article for highways? Is it 3? And the cumulative number, that passes is what gets spent. Those details we can hash out later. But in an effort to try to do something different and to try to get lines better aligned with where we think they should be, I will almost certainly be making that motion and be looking for the support of the committee. Ms. Bobina.
Just a question, and I can't remember. Is that like what historically has been in the budget, that like around 250 for hot top and grinding, like every budget?
Yes.
And I don't even, has it been spent at all for that?
So I will confess my ignorance.
Yeah, I'm not,
What I know is that selectmen going back at least 15 years have said publicly, well, the highway fund is where we steal the money to balance the budget. And I have to admit, I've never gone and sifted through all that carefully. That's easy research to do, for sure, if somebody wants to take the time to do it. But that's been something that selectmen have said publicly in their meetings. And so to sort of break that cycle, maybe that'll be a better way for us to go.
so then,
Just let her finish and I'll continue.
so I guess the concern would be, if we're in a situation like we are, the crisis that we're in now, and where would they get money for a crisis?
It
So-
would still be in the default budget.
It'll still be in the default budget.
That's right.
$250,000
Okay.
remains in the default
Gotcha.
budget.
Yep.
So I can't tell if it's a carrot or a stick, or if it's half of each.
Yeah.
The concept on pitching, but it's to try to do something different to see if we can move the ball forward. I'm sorry, Mr. Rhodes, please.
A couple of points. One, I'm all in favor of doing something different, but I think something different may be something that the executive boards have to do necessarily than us. But that's a different point. It is within the ambit of this committee and any citizen to request an accounting for exactly where monies come from and go to for meeting exactly the question that the member asked earlier. How are you funding the shortfall? That report, I don't know how difficult it is to run, Karen, but that's a report that one can request be produced, so that it is utterly transparent as to where the monies are coming from to fund the actual expenditures that are made. And if you want to do something different, Mr. Chairman, that might be a place to start. That will show exactly where the monies are coming from to fund exactly what is being spent.
So I agree with you 100%. It's my understanding that I'm looking at that document currently, that when I go through this, and I'm on page 14 because that's where I like to be sometimes, and when I look at culverts and when I look at equipment, I notice that the balance is negative, so they've overspent those lines. And so basically, material is overspent, right? And so anything that's underspent at the end of the year is when you get the true accounting. But anything that's underspent, that's where that money potentially is coming from. It's a bottom line budget, right? They have a bottom line that they can spend to. This is, it's not a roadmap, because you can follow a map from A to B, but this is sort of like hints on how to get from your house to my house.
If it were done at the end of the year.
It
I
is.
think
Go ahead,
If
please.
you do it at the end of the year, it would be prepared in time for voters to understand where the money went to.
That is done. The books close in December. The final report would come out in January, February at the latest. It's actually available for deliberative.
Mr. Chair?
Please.
I think it would also be helpful for the voters to understand how that money is being spent when it isn't going to things like hot top grinding, because we seem to always have these large ticket items that come up, like the furnace and the plumbing, and, there are things that I think the townspeople would see value in their tax dollars going to in lieu of whatever it's coming from. But I think they need that information.
And as.
If I can, real
as-
quick. So I agree with you 100%. And there's really two potential sources for that, right? Either the select board chooses to have that discussion and make those sort of announcements publicly, right? So that it's coming from them. Or it's John or Jane Q. Citizen that are watching meetings and reporting on the goings on that, the boiler crapped out, all of a sudden we can't have copper pipes in buildings anymore, and this is what it's gonna cost us. Either a citizen can take that on, because I certainly publish a lot of numbers of doing my own sifting. I know other citizens do it, and the select board can certainly do that, or the school board for the school side, obviously.
We can ask the town to do that,
You can ask.
and we can ask if we want.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I
please.
think it would really, as far as the select board is concerned, I think it would be really good if the select board started really highlighting where they're taking money for crisis spending.
All of the things that did not get accomplished.
Yeah, and that's why this doesn't get accomplished. I think that would really let the taxpayers know why we aren't getting what we thought we were.
And to piggyback on what she's saying, to have a bullet list of surprise expenses, right, things that were not anticipated, what they are, maybe a blurb on why they're required, right, so that it's understood that it's not optional, because sometimes people think things that are required are actually optional, and then what the dollar amount is. I mean, it surprises me that the board doesn't have that running document yet, but again, the select board is their own beast, and they can decide how to best handle their affairs, but I agree with the sentiment. I'm sorry, did I cut someone off?
No, I
Ms.
was gonna-
McHugh?
I
Or
do have
Mr.
something
Cresswell?
that's not on this topic, but it's another topic. So when we're done this topic, I would like to bring something in.
I'll go first.
I was going to.
Oh, I'm sorry, please, yes.
So obviously, today, in the middle of the fiscal year, all of the things that are over as budget items are coming out of all of the things that are under. And we still have a lot of things that are under that haven't been spent, and that's why we're only at 59% or whatever it is of the year, right? So it's hard to say that when, like, for instance, the pipe repair, we know that we're gonna have to pay that bill, but we don't know, we haven't decided yet, well, we're taking it from this line necessarily, because we're not sure exactly how much, but we know we have some room in that line, and we're gonna delay or not do certain things because we know we need the room in those lines, right?
That's the beauty of it.
But I can't really, you might just say, well, all of the things that are over are gonna come out of all of the things that are under, and at the end of the year is when it gets reconciled. That's when we can total it all up and actually see what hasn't been done, what sacrifices we've had to make as the board on the town's behalf in order to work within the budget that we have. I believe that that's pretty much the charter of the Board of Selectmen, to manage the town's funding by making decisions as elected officials, making decisions on judgments to be made for the citizens, how to spend the bottom line amount that we have with the problems and issues that come up and we face. So the fact that it's a bottom line budget and we have to go over on different lines, if we were working on a proposed budget that was approved each year by the citizens, then we would be, I think, a lot more accountable towards spending money toward the categories than this case. I'm not saying we're not accountable, but I think it's harder to hold our feet to the fire on these numbers that are pretty old and don't reflect, as MBC go through each year, we see that they don't reflect the right numbers, and we'd like to get those all reset to the right categories. Last year, we went through the exercise, we reset them to what we thought were the minimum amounts that we could get through on a reasonable budget as a committee. And I thought that if we had gotten that passed, we would have been a lot closer to not being in such a crisis as we are today. In fact, we only were over our default budget by $500,000. Now, it sounds like a big amount of money to you and me as citizens, but that's not a big amount of money in a municipal budget to do that. So I would encourage us again this year to go through the budget to try to set the proper amounts in each of the lines. Not that we're going to be held to those, because it's not a line item budget, it is a bottom line budget, but to try to set them so that we don't have so many big numbers of variances from the ones that we set. We try to hold ourselves to those numbers more carefully. I would like, as one selectman, I would like to see more accountability to the line items, because I'm used to that in business. I'm used to looking at line items and asking, why did we go over in this? Why did we go over in that? But if we go through this today and ask all those questions, almost every answer is going to be, well, we don't have the proper budgeted number there. We know we don't have the proper budgeted number there. So I think we are accountable. You know, I feel like we can make the report that Mr. Verville suggests, which is kind of a running list of the unexpected things that have come up, the things that we've had to forego or not do because we didn't have a budget. And I'd like to think that this committee could, again this year, produce a very reasonable budget that reflects real spending and that we can sell it better to the voters. I'm going to be talking both with the town's Democratic Committee as well as the town's Republican Committee about working together this year to try to promote the passage of the budget and have both sides of the aisle, if you will, recognize that the town does need a decent budget that makes sense and that we should work together to convince our followers in the social media and other places where we influence before the next election. We should convince them to support a good budget. We had a good budget last year. We didn't have enough support for it, and voters made their choice. So that's always the voters speak. But I'd like to think that the voters can see that the town is not wasting great deals of money. We can debate that in the hall here, but I think you'll see that we're not wasting a great deal of money. We are foregoing a lot of infrastructure that the town needs, and we should support the budget.
Ms. McHugh?
To your point, Will, I think that when we're talking about budget lines being appropriately changed to what we're actually spending. Some of these salary lines are $1, and obviously we're spending much more than $1. Plus we have COLA increases. So when people are looking at the budget and they're seeing these overages, I think making sure, for example, highway administration, full-time and part-time employees, we're over, obviously on part-time, there's only $1 budget there. Same with transfer station, but keeping in mind that we did get a turn down of a supervisor position for the transfer station. So trying to get to a point to where these reflect actual numbers, because we're down to salaries over salt, sand, cold mix, things that are obviously maintenance that we need to have done. Our trust funds are only going to last so long. Those may not pass at the warrants, so we can't really rely on those. So seeing these $1 budgets and then having the overages there, I think that's obviously a huge concern too, and making sure that those are appropriately allocated to what's actually being paid out, and perhaps putting a limit on those, saying, okay, this is our salary budget and that's it, and making sure we're upping those to where they need to be.
Yeah, seeing so many large variances in the last column, percent used, is indicative of the budget crisis that we're in. The fact that we've been on such old, ancient, numbers Some of them are way too low and some of them are way too high. So we managed through this, for the citizens to get through a year and try to provide the basic services that are needed, the plowing and some road repair and, everything that we try to do. I'm in support of Mr. Verville's suggestion that we, as a personal citizen, I'm in support of the suggestion that we kind of force the town to spend highway dollars on highway things, right? But because I think that's what the citizens intend. However, to do that in this budget and not spend that $250,000 and to have to carve it out of other things would really be almost impossible, I would say.
But that would not be this budget. That would be, because the default budget, if the default budget passes, you still have the $250,000. The change would only be in the proposed budget.
But if we put it in the proposed budget, and as you say, it lowers the proposed budget, makes it more palatable, and they pass the proposed budget with 0 lines in highway, and then they say $750,000 for roads, that's too high this year, we keep giving them $500,000, I only see a little bit of paving going on, I'm gonna vote no, and we get a no.
So again,
and
it
we
doesn't,
have
it doesn't.
$0
No,
to.
but again, it doesn't have to be one question for $750,000. It can be 3 questions for
Yeah.
$250,000 that are summative.
That's a good point.
We have to be creative about how we approach it. I'm not a gambling man because I lose. But, money for highways in this town has to be like shooting a fish in a barrel. It has to be the easiest thing to do, and it may help us here.
Didn't we have a warrant that got increased to $1 million?
$500,000.
$500,000 for.
years in a row, I don't
Very,
remember.
very.
Well, it's been
very
several
big.
years
It
and
was
it's been growing.
proposed as a certain number, and during town meeting, it got doubled, so.
Proposed as 300,000 and it got set to 500,000.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
My concern is, and I think that that's, what we're talking is a great idea. I think people do want to see money go towards highways. That's clearly been articulated by many residents. But if we are going to take away the cushion that exists in the current budget for things like the plumbing crisis and the septic crisis, and, we need to come up with a rainy day fund or some other addition to the trust fund or some other way to cover unanticipated crises. Because if we take away any possible places in the town budget for that money to come from, then we have then we don't have a path forward when some other crisis comes about.
Mr. Rhodes.
So I would actually take issue with the idea that we have a budget crisis. We actually have a planning crisis, and we've had a planning crisis in this town for at least 10 years. And I'm on the planning board, so I'll own this. And we're doing something about it. The master plan hasn't been pushed, CIPs haven't been pushed, impact fees haven't been pushed, and there's been no direction from the select board and for a number of years from the planning board to do those things. Those are the instruments that speak exactly to what you just spoke about. When you have a plan, when you have trust funds that will fund those things, when you fund them little by little, have a town meeting with 50 warrant articles. Let them really pick and choose what they want to put their money to, okay? You'll pass a budget, but you're not going to be able to do that, I don't think, until you start managing. And I would say this to both the school and the town, although I think the school has a better instrumentality in the SAU to achieve this. But you got to know what your people are doing. Okay? I'd be very surprised if you knew how many assaults per month there have been in this town, Mr. Hubner, or domestics, or, stops.
Police department, I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not following.
Yeah, but that's what happens in this town. The question we have to answer is the money we're spending being well spent?
Can I interrupt you real quick?
No, thank you.
That's fine.
I just,
Go ahead.
I mean, our challenge is to see if the money is being best spent. And I don't know how we can determine that until we know what the people who are doing the work are doing. My understanding is that and I don't know what the school does, but on the town side, we don't get monthly reports from department heads on what their activities are, how many calls they have, how many, I think the departments know, but I don't think we know. I don't think the town knows. And so to put up a budget to say that this is what is going to be the most sensible, until you know what the statistics are, as you know in business, you do it on your activities, not on the basis of just some dreamt up budget numbers. You don't, you rely on your department heads, but you double check them, trust but verify, So you gotta have a real plan in order to make this work. I don't think just fixing a budget crisis is gonna get you anywhere near where you wanna be.
Before we go to Ms. Marchioni, I just want to say that those types of data points have been requested by members of this committee in years past, and we're always promised that we're going to get something, and if we ever do, it's a one-off, and that's the last thing you ever see. So I agree 100%. Ms. Marchioni, please.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I mean, our asking for it is one thing. The executive body's asking for it is really what this is about.
100%.
And it's not about our asking for it. It's for the executive bodies to manage their staff in a way that gets them the information that they really need to be able to say, this is a budget that I'm behind.
I agree. Ms. Marchioni, please.
Thank you. So a lot of this conversation is some of what I was trying to say in the last meeting, and it came out in the minutes, which I would like to see corrected. In Ms. Marchioni recommends layoffs, she recommends layoffs, she recommends layoffs. What I was trying to say is that,
Can I just stop you real quick?
Yeah.
So we approved the minutes.
I know you
before-
did.
No, hold on. We approved the minutes before you arrived. My guess is at either now or at the next meeting, somebody voting on the prevailing side would be willing to make a motion to reconsider so that you could have changes made to the meeting minutes. I'll leave it to your discretion whether you want to do that this evening or at the next meeting, but I would certainly hope that the committee would indulge. I can't do that because I abstained. I'm sorry, go ahead.
thank you. So I think it's a little disingenuous to present a budget to the town. I understand it's a bottom line budget, but say that you can't take that $257,000 out of the default budget from the highway line because that's what we use to pay salaries with. Well, that is not what's presented, and that is not being genuine and honest and clear with taxpayers. You can't tuck money into a lot of different various lines that look good to taxpayers, knowing full well that you're going to use it to pay salaries. That is dishonest. And it just so rubs me the wrong way, having worked in accounting and budgeting for most of my adult life. It is not the right way to look at the budget, even if it is a bottom line budget. I agree entirely that a rainy day fund would be great. Move it into another line. If you need a cushion, call it something else, but don't continue to put forth, and I know it's in the default, I don't know how you get it out if you can't, if you never get a budget passed, but that is really just the wrong way to look at that number, as that's our cushion for paying salaries. In addition, there's also the $16,000 in gravel that on that same page, Mr. Chairman, on page 14, that is also not being spent. That is the second line item that is going to be used as a cushion to pay for salaries, essentially, I think, or anything that you're over budget on. I have a couple more items, and Karen, you can probably answer these. I want to know where you're taking the money from. The only two lines that I know of are the ones that you said the last time, which was the $257,000 and the $16,000. So where else is the money coming from? What else are you not paying in order to get through the year? I also want to know, what are your actual encumbrances? So when we look at this budget and it's stated that, well, wherever we're under budget, we're going to take that money to pay wherever we're over budget. Well, it doesn't work that way, right? So you might have a third and fourth quarter insurance payment, liability insurance that you have to pay. And so it's showing as under budget. You have payables that you're going to have to make throughout the rest of the year. I'd like to see what that looks like so that we can see it's not as simple as saying, in any accounting world ever, we're 64% of the way through the year and we're 64% spent on our budget, so we must be spot on. No, what are the upcoming expenses? That's not even close to telling us where we're at from an accounting perspective. What expenses do we have coming up that are going to have to be paid, and how far over budget, if at all, are we? It's
So can we-
amazing
can we
and
just take-
wonderful.
can we just
Yes,
take a
can I
minute
just,
and
one
They can
second.
answer the question?
Yes, the $143,000 grant from the state is amazing. If that's not money that we have anticipated, it's not in the budget, and that's going against the shortfall, that's wonderful news.
Well, I don't think it is not anticipated. We get a gas and toll tax from our portion of that from the state each year. So it's not like we're surprised.
Was it in the default budget?
But no, it's not in the default budget.
It's in revenues. Revenues is not in the budget.
Right, sorry. Was it in revenues for the year projected?
So how much is in the revenues? So we don't have the actual estimated revenue line, as Mr. Burville pointed out, to be able to show that.
Okay.
So the block grant, I don't know what the number is missing that says 0 there, what we had in our revenue. I could look that up or find it out. But I don't know it at the moment.
Okay, so let's unpack Stacy's comments, right? What I'm hearing is that you want us to utilize the Board of Selectmen's authority to transfer funds so that they can reallocate those 257 and transfer them to other budgets so that they more align with how they're actually spending the money. Which is good in practice, and I think that would make it easier to follow percentage used and to make sure we're on track. The difficulty I have with that is that this budget was created before I got here. So I've spent this first 6 months trying to figure out how the department heads allocate the funds, how they expend the funds. As we build the 26 budget, I think we would be able to do that and sort of line the proposed 26 budget up with those same kind of dollars for the 26 default budget that would more similarly line up how we're allocating payroll expenses, health insurance, those kinds of line item expenses that are routine, and taking out, reallocating the 257 for other items that we know are anticipated. As far as the PEX piping, there's 16,000 in gravel that will likely go towards that. There's money in government buildings, and there's also GBW repairs and maintenance lines that will largely be used to cover those expenses.
Would you mind going through those and the dollar amounts? Would you just,
The general government buildings repairs and maintenance line has 9,000 left in it, and the GBW repairs and maintenance line has 58,000 left in it. So largely, a lot of that 58 will be used to cover other expenses also, but that is there.
Might I inquire?
Yep.
And perhaps the question's better suited for Mr. Eubner, but if you can answer, that's fine. So the first half of your answer, the way I interpreted that is if you want to see where the money's going and where the money's coming from, I think you'd have to overlay the proposed budget next to the default budget, and the proposed budget that failed would show you where they expected to spend money and where they expected it to come from. For this budget, I think next year, she's going to have something a little bit different for us.
I have a spreadsheet of that already that I created right after town meeting of this year to show the variances between the proposed and the default of 25.
So we already know when we're starting out a fiscal year that we anticipate being way over on this one and way under on that one, because we know what we think we need, which is the budget we proposed. Now we only have this, or we have more or less. So that's just,
And a lot of the large one-time expenses that are anticipated for 25 have already been expended. Those are usually outlaid in January.
some of them come early and some of them come later, but most of them come early. We prepay most of our insurances and things like that.
I sat down with Pete LeMay and we outlined out what is an average payroll, what is our average New Hampshire retirement, what is our monthly medical insurance bill. So those are all regular recurring, what's our credit card bill? Those are all regular recurring bills that we'll have monthly. So by the time we get to the end of the year, we have about $125,000 left outside of those expenses. So besides payroll expenses, medical insurance, and trash, we got 100 grand about.
Ms. Quinn?
Thank you. So I don't know who would answer this, but isn't it also true that, well, having the default budget compared to the proposed budget, I think would be very informative. But there are things that are in the default and potentially also the proposed budget that we would have spent money on if it were not for the fact, like, perhaps the road agent would have spent more money on things like hot top and grinding and gravel if it weren't for the fact that we needed that money to cover other things. So it's not like those line items are just there to give us cushion. Those are things that are not happening
Correct.
in the town
Right.
that should be.
Right. And so the $500,000 warrant article that was approved and passed, 309,000 of it is paving 7,000 feet of Griffin Road. They'll spend about $5,000 doing ledge work, hauling and trucking all of that out. There is 110,000 that will be spent to purchase the Range Road culvert. And then whether or not you can actually install the culvert will depend on whether or not FEMA can reimburse us back the 75% before the year's up. Because if they cannot, then we'll purchase the culvert this year and then install it next year, because there won't be enough funds to cover the entirety of the install.
So just,
So can I just ask a question on what you just said? You said that your projection with the accountant is that you will have $125,000 remaining at the end of the year after paying your committed expenses for the year.
Those are known committed expenses
Known
today, but
committed
that is also
expenses.
not including like heat or fuel or,
Doesn't include utilities.
it doesn't include, right? Like those are,
Okay. I'm sorry, these are the nitty gritty. If it's,
understood. It's just Josh, Ms. Cresswell had something he wanted to bring up before we changed subjects, and I think we've slid, and he's been very patient.
Sorry.
And so
Go ahead.
It does kind of go along with and I'll use the term crisis. When is and Mr. Hubner or Karen, either one, do we know when the Raymond ambulance contract ends?
Next year.
The next year?
Next year, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Raymond Ambulance recently had a statement coming out that they are planning to discontinue services to outside entities. Is there a plan, first of all, were you aware of that? And second of all, what is the plan to restore an ambulance service to this town when that happens?
I haven't heard of that yet. I don't think we've been officially noticed for that.
You may not have been officially noticed yet.
Does the ALS service pick that up, Karen?
There is no ALS.
We
It's a
do,
contract actually in this town.
Exeter, so there's a contract for ambulance contracted services.
Right,
That is Raymond Ambulance.
I understand that.
Raymond Ambulance occasionally has a paramedic on staff, which is their ALS. The ALS comes from Exeter Ambulance, or Exeter Hospital. That has dissolved,
I would say that's
has moved to Plastow.
Right.
It's the same service, but that is contracted from Raymond to Exeter, not from us. We don't pay directly for that. We get charged for it.
Did the town not enter into a contract with the Plastow people?
so we do have a contract with Raymond Ambulance. I think it's 17,500. We did execute a separate contract with the town of Plastow for those ambulance
That's
services.
a new contract for this year?
It is a new contract. It doesn't have a service fee right now because we don't really utilize it. And I think the way that it was structured is that with the grant money that Plastow was able to receive, I think they can fund it in its entirety through, I think, 26. And then after that, then there would be a larger fee for the town if we were to utilize that service.
Okay, so when Raymond Ambulance decides to no longer operate as they have been for the last 30, 40 years, is there a plan for the town to replace that initial ambulance service? Because Exeter ALS does not transport. They show up with a medic to support an ambulance. They do not provide an ambulance.
What does Candia do?
So,
India has their own service.
so this really is a topic that's germane to the select board at this point, not the budget committee. They haven't been noticed. He can't answer that question until they have been. I think it's a great call out. I don't think we should try to deep dive until
I'm
the
just
select board
curious
has
if
it.
there was, if this has been noticed yet, or if.
Sounds like it has not.
Okay, so this is something we should probably talk about later.
And if the default is to go to the Plastow
And again,
service,
Plastow doesn't have a transporting.
I don't think that's, to me, at least initially thinking about it, that's not probably a reasonable service to Deerfield based on distance and facility of features that they offer.
Well, actually, the Plastow service would be based in Brentwood for us.
They do have a.
They have
do
two
have
flat
a
cars.
That's what the contract
substation
says anyways,
in
so.
Brentwood, yes.
Yeah.
But they still don't have a transporting ambulance that would be coming to Deerfield.
I mean, there is, as you know, in the past and ongoing, a debate about adequate ambulance service for the citizens of Deerfield.
I was at the hearing, and I think I brought this very topic up.
So I think that really has to be discussed at the select board meeting. The other thing I'll say is, you know, we keep talking about a budget crisis, and, you know, I don't agree with the language. The fact of the matter is, the Deerfield municipal budget goes up year after year. Default budgets are realigned to pay for contractual changes over time. So the increases have not been what the select board has requested, but the municipal budget has never gone down since the last proposed budget that passed. It is an interesting footnote that the last proposed municipal budget was actually smaller than the default budget that passed. And to quote the select board representative, it was only $500,000 different, which is, you know, an eighth, right? That's 12%, give or take, which is non-insignificant. But I don't know if crisis is quite the word on the budgetary side that I would use. Certainly, we have a lot of room for improvement.
One comment that, if I may.
Please.
You had mentioned sort of dishonesty in that, I don't know if it rises to that level, although it's because it's allowed in the
It is
terms of
allowed,
it's
yes.
It's permitted.
But when you
But
think of
but
it
if I-
as
but let me
your
finish.
cushion.
The issue is confidence. That is the entire issue.
100%.
The reason you don't pass a budget is because people don't believe what they see. And this isn't a highly intellectual exercise. It's a gut exercise. So until you give them what they need at a gut level to say, oh, okay, I know what they're doing. They're planning for this, they're planning for that. The money is going to be spent transparently. I think the idea of having, you know, more warrant articles so that people know that that money will be spent for that purpose will help achieve the idea of confidence, or the confidence in what you're doing. But I don't think that basing a future budget on past expenditures in a rising inflation environment is a road to anywhere except insolvency.
So I'd like to piggyback onto that, and because I think you're saying something I've been saying for years, just a slightly different way. I don't believe that it's the absolute value of the budget that the vast majority of voters vote up or down. They vote budgets and warrant articles up and down based on whether or not that spending represents their priorities. And if you propose a budget that represents their priorities, they will pass it. If you do not, they will reject it. And a case in point would be a couple of years ago, the school default budget was larger than the proposed budget, and the voters approved the default budget. And I would contend that the reason they did is because the difference between the proposed and the default budget was a high school bus. And kids, the parents and families wanted more high school transportation. We know there's no drivers, we get all that. But if drivers manifested, there'd be money. And it's my opinion that that budget passed because it had a bus that never hit the road, but because it had a spending priority that they supported. And if you want to pass a budget, you got to have a budget that is the priorities of the voters.
I am happy to report the bus has hit the road this year.
Yes, I have heard, and that is very, actually, I saw the bus, I was behind the bus. Are there any other questions on the budget that we have before us? Ms. Marchand?
So the total lines, Karen, thank you so much. That is extremely helpful to know, everything that you just said. So the total of the lines that you are not expending, that you are reallocating, that you've just stated totals $340,000. It's the 257, 16,000, 9,000, and 58,000. Where is that money going in general? If you had to say, well, we needed that for, can you, and maybe it's a report on that would be excellent. As Errol was saying, where is the money going?
Payroll and trash,
Payroll and trash.
pretty much.
How would you say the division is between payroll and trash? Roughly.
I don't know.
50-50, 60-40, 70-30, or you have no idea?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Could you perhaps, for our next meeting, run a number of what payroll and trash represents versus the whole nut, right? Whether it's like 80%, 90%, and then give us a breakdown. Could we task you with that? Would that be all right? I don't see an objection, so I'm gonna say she's taking notes to do that.
And so, so as of this point, you think that if you pull those 4 line items, that $340,000, that is going to get you through the end of the year?
That plus getting rid of or removing the C&D dumpster.
Of $100,000. So when we do that, we're up to $440,000 that had to be pulled from different line items to cover salaries and trash. Is that right?
Which is
Medical insurance.
approximately what the difference between our last year's proposed budget and the default was. We recognize that we were about $500,000 behind.
So,
We asked for it, but we didn't get it, so we
Right.
have to pull it from other places.
so does the select board ever address that in any of their meetings to actually talk about that number of, okay, so this is our plan for the year. These are the line items, or at any meetings, these are the line items that we're going to be pulling money from in order to pay our shortfall in these 2 categories.
Well, I think if you look traditionally at the end-of-year figures where we look at what we didn't spend and what we spent over, right? That accounting at the end of the year, that tells you traditionally for several years what we traditionally have gone after as items to replace deficits in the budget line.
Right, so that's different though than a discussion at a board meeting. I
Yes,
just
they-
feel like that could be helpful.
They did discuss that at the first board meeting after town meeting.
Right, we talked
The budget
about
deficit,
what would
how-
have to be held
Okay.
as a result of the voters' decisions.
Just real quick, so it's my opinion, right, so this is opinion story,
Yes.
that the select board focuses on selling the budget from January to March. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the proposed budget sold, and that's where their focus is. And then it's after they get the March results that they then either celebrate or try to figure out how to rearrange the deck chairs. Mr. Rhodes?
So I think the exercise of figuring out which overage lines paid for which underage lines is a good exercise for January. But I think that horse has left the barn at this point to some degree. They're
I
gonna
agree.
get through, you're gonna get through this year, okay? I think but if you continue to look at this as a budget issue, you're treading water. You're not making any progress. Because you gotta focus on planning, you gotta focus on setting up reserves, funding reserves, you know, to make to be able to deal with this kind of stuff in the future. If you just-
That is 100% true, but we also have to look at paying bills every week.
Absolutely. And
And
actually-
payroll, and meeting payroll, so.
And in fairness, I think the town administrator represents as it would say in China years ago, a great leap forward. You know, it's, you know, it just it's brought a lot of discipline to the table, which didn't exist before. And she can tell you sitting there exactly what you roughly need to know, and I'm sure she can come up with figures to back it up. I have great confidence in that, okay? But the voters, I don't think, are going to have confidence in a budget if they're not seeing that it's based on a plan going forward.
Right, but
So-
we also need to show voters in these meetings that we're going through line by line and looking at everything and discussing it too, I think.
But I think this conversation will have much more meaning next year when we do this, because we will have actually focused on this budget and then can go back to items. We're sort of catching the what they call it, sort of the rump end of the existing budget. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing that. I'm just saying this is.
So two things really quick, right? The other thing is if we really want to have a good time, this committee can meet in January, do the very same exercise on our own, and then compare our results to the town select board administration results and see if we agree with what those numbers look like, right? If you want to have fun. The other thing, you know, I've been watching the meetings over the summer. I apologize, I haven't been in attendance, but I've been watching the meetings. And we spend a huge amount of time discussing $4 million and a budget that's growing essentially on par with inflation. And we spend only a few minutes each meeting discussing the budget that's $20 million, right? Which is really 80% of what we spend goes to the school. We spend a couple of minutes looking through that, and we're done. And in watching the meetings, one would think just in the amount of time spent that the budgetary driver that's killing us all in town, that's driving our taxes up and making it so we can't get town budgets, is the town and the town budget. And I don't believe that's the case. If you look at the increase in spending of the school district versus the municipality, the school district budget is beginning to look like the Lafner curve, right? The hockey stick. And the town budget just kind of, creeps along 3 to 5% a year, give or take. And so with that, if you really want to reduce the tax burden, the focus really is going to have to be on the school district. Otherwise, you're nibbling around the edges and never getting to the root cause.
If I may briefly, I think that's true, but there's no one here from the school to answer those kind of detailed questions.
So
Our town administrator has answers to questions as we're following along the budget very closely. They have their numbers.
So we
And
can certainly make requests to have administrators present at these meetings if that's, we can't compel them to show up, but we can certainly make the request. I know the new superintendent has reached out to me. She's looking forward to meeting with us and going through the budget this year. Obviously she has very big shoes to fill following Superintendent Sherman, but she's been proactive and reached out. And we could certainly make that request. If we do that, I want to make sure that we have some specifics that we want to discuss and that we can provide those specifics ahead of time so that they can be prepared for the discussion. If we're going to drag them out on a weeknight, we owe them at least that common courtesy. So if you want to do that, we can certainly discuss that.
I also just think it's disingenuous to say that they're not going to be here to answer questions.
No, nobody said that. Nobody said that. She's not familiar with
Yeah.
how we operate.
All we do is answer questions about the budget when they're here. I mean, I agree, the discussion about the school is much shorter in time than the town. So if people have more questions, I would encourage people to ask questions.
But if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
The difference between the town and the school, it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, is that it seems to me that the school is, it built its budget up every year from zero, so we're told, and which I have no reason to doubt. And my guess is that that's based on a lot of data about teachers showing up, doing good jobs, having hours. I mean, question for you. Is the kind of data that we were talking about earlier, the kind of metrics about teachers and results in the school, are those available to the school administration and to the school administrators on the ground and to the SAU?
In terms of what, like test scores?
No, people showing up, are they,
Yeah,
are they,
like staff.
are we getting value for our money? That's the question. Because we don't know, for instance, on the town side, a lot of that stuff. We don't know how many, what kind of activities the various, and I know people's heads explode when they actually ask them to do this stuff. But our budget is based on a proposed number from department heads.
Right.
Which is not backed up by anybody looking at the stats and saying, oh, but you've only, what we're getting as services as opposed to what we're paying for is better documented in the school, it seems to me, than it is in the town.
So,
Yeah, and I think we're making a conscious effort to try to explain things. So when we have the budget binders, as you know, we have 20 pages of things to back up what is in the budget. So we have all of our rosters, we have, the ratios, we have how many paras we have, et cetera. I think we haven't been good, and we're going to this year provide more information about the caseloads for the case managers. How many students are working with X professional or Y professional, or, try to fill out that a little bit more so that people have a better idea of what these people are doing in the schools. We have their title in the roster, but not everyone knows what a special ed case manager does, for instance. Fill out those details slightly more so that people have a better idea.
so, wait a
My
minute.
point is that you track that kind of information, and I don't believe that the town really does. And the 80-20 point that you make is a problem that is true in Kansas and New Jersey as well as Deerfield, New Hampshire. So not to excuse it, but you need to, there seems to be a little more genetic, I'm not saying a lot, but a little more genetic frugality in the school side than there is in the town side. And it'd be great to know if we're really getting good value on the town side, which is hard to know.
So I would say you are making some rather large leaps of faith. Because the question I always ask is, show me the metric, right? So if, by way of example, right, if I hire an X specialist and I bring them into district, right? What was my beforehand data baseline? What triggered the need for the specialist in district? And then show me the data going forward that you're actually getting a return on that investment. And I would contend by far and large that that data does not exist, that data is not reviewed, and that the claims are based on district self-evaluation and qualitative metrics, basically saying, yeah, we did the right thing hiring that new position, and it's going swimmingly just as we expected. Thank you, have a nice day. So I appreciate your optimism, although I'm not convinced that data set is there. We've brought on a lot of specialists in areas that are assessed, and as far as I know, thus far, we've seen no benefit in assessment, and I would ask what metrics somebody could point to.
I would actually
Mr.
just say that, in fact, it's not the specialists that I'm more worried about. It's the rank and file, the existing base, not the, people on top of that. That there's a better handle on. The teachers, do they show up?
Well, you have to show up, otherwise you get fired.
Otherwise, our substitute line would be really, really.
And they get fired. Bonnie, Ms. Bobian, did you
Yeah.
have something to?
I guess when we start talking about education, and I spent a fair amount of time in that field, the thing that we always need to keep in mind is that schools are successful because of a triangle that exists between parent, child, and school. And so if you want, let's get the metrics on participation of the parents and how important the school is to the parents for their student. So you always have to remember that part of the equation when you're talking about successful schools.
No, without a doubt. Are there any more questions on the town budget? Old business, any old business? New business? New business?
Would it be appropriate to make a motion to reopen the decision on the meeting minutes?
As one of the assenting votes, I'll make a motion that we reconsider the passage of the minutes as reflecting the fact that there's been an objection by.
Second? Yes, I'll second.
Move. All in favor?
All right. Any opposed? Okay, Ms. Marchioni, please.
I'd like to see a few corrections, generally throughout the minutes, on page 2, and I don't know how to refer to this, there aren't line numbers or paragraph numbers or anything, but the correction, number 1 would be in reference to me. The line is, she said it doesn't make sense to her to extend any leases. I, in fact, recommended that the barbershop lease be extended to line up with the lease for Charlie's, and that nothing be extended beyond that, because then everything can be reevaluated. I'd like that correction made. Correction number 2, it says, Ms. Marchioni suggested that the Board of Selectmen lay off employees and not give raises if they can't afford to do other things such as road work that was budgeted for. What in fact I said was that the Board of Selectmen may need to consider such things because their salaries are over budget so much. She stated again, Ms. Marchioni reiterated that layoffs may be necessary. Again, what I actually said was, if there is no money in the budget to pay salaries, you really need to look at the staffing that you have. The third, she said, was again, Ms. Marchioni again said that layoffs would be necessary. I again said may be necessary. If you have no money to pay salaries, you need to look at your staffing. And she stated that Ms. Marchioni said the BOS has to start spending what they said they were going to spend and stop moving money around. I said, in fact, that the Board of Selectmen has to spend money as budgeted by the town and as voted on by the town. So I would suggest that Ms. St. Peter, please.
This recording secretary.
Recording secretary, re-listen to the meeting and
So-
make the corrections that I've suggested, because those are inaccurate statements.
So I'm going to say that those corrections are going to be requested, and we will review the minutes again when they come back. Is that amenable to the committee?
Well, I think our objective is to have the record correctly reflect the recording of the minute, of the meeting.
Absolutely. So I guess what I'm, yes.
Were these, Karen, was this on tape?
Yes.
It was recorded, yes.
Recorded, okay, so we can all look at that before agreeing that.
So the request from the committee is going to be to have those minutes updated and resubmitted, and after we have a chance to review the resubmission, we'll consider those minutes for approval. Is there anybody that's opposed to that?
Nope.
I just have a question.
Please.
So the secretary is getting it from that little device or from this?
Or the YouTube video, one of the, for this meeting, she's going to get it from YouTube, the recording secretary will get it from YouTube because I didn't hit record.
Okay, so,
But I think it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
yeah, I think too, I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that we're speaking loudly enough so that she can hear us and get exactly what we said. I was not here, so I have no idea, but I know sometimes we don't make a point of speaking loudly enough.
Fair enough. So that would be new business, technically old business, doesn't matter. Any other new business?
So there was a motion on the table and a second. So what are we going to do about that, Mr. Chairman? Sorry.
Well, the motion was to bring it up for reconsideration. It has been
Passed.
It has been
Unanimously.
discussed, and the chairman is suggesting by consensus that we wait until
For
the
reconsideration next time.
Yes.
Thank you.
So those minutes are not approved.
Yep.
They are still in limbo. As draft, they reside in draft to meet 91A, but the final minutes will wait for a re-edit.
Point of order, question.
Please.
When they're in draft, do they get posted or not?
Yes, you have to make them publicly available.
They have been circulated.
They have been circulated.
verify the automatic blast or whatever.
You have 5 business days to.
I understand that, but
post them
it's
in.
it's one's definition of publicly available is what I'm after. But anyway, it's,
I believe they are available on the Municipal Budget Committee town page.
town page.
Yes, as draft.
Yeah.
As draft. Any other new business, old business, monkey business? Public comments?
Motion to adjourn?
You can't do that, but it is, great segue.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Still alive, Mike?
Thanks, Karen. All right.